Hey everyone, Jason here with another Nanocoaster video today. Today we're going to be assembling Jersey Devil Coaster from Six Flags Great Adventure in New Jersey. Jersey Devil Coaster is a 130-foot tall Rocky Mountain Construction or RMC Raptor Track single rail coaster that just opened last year. The layout of this coaster is different from the original RMC Raptors like Wonder Woman and Railblazer, but it's still a fantastic ride. And so let's jump right in and put this together. So in the box, you'll see first you have a tip sheet that tells you that you can use something like nail clippers or wire cutters to cut out the pieces. We'll be using wire cutters today. You also have the base plate, a single sheet of track pieces, and the instructions. Now the first step when you're assembling any nano coaster is going to be to remove the brown paper from the base. A lot of people forget this step, but to remove this you'll want to just put your fingers underneath the corners here and peel it off. The top of the base plate has the entire layout of the Nano Coaster engraved in it. The bottom does not. So when you do the top piece, it's going to come off in multiple pieces. However, the bottom should come off in one piece. So I'm going to hurry up and remove all of the brown paper, and then we'll proceed to that point. So there we have the cleaned off base plate. With the brown paper removed, so we got this glossy black finish. Now, if you've seen my other videos, you know that a step that I like to add is to add a large logo to the base plate. If you look at this base plate though, you'll notice it's not very large, and there's not a lot of extra room. The kit does come with a little sign here with the logo on it, and this is actually a simplified logo. If you know the logo for Jersey Devil Coaster, you can see there on the box, it's quite complex. And so the little sign modified that, and they got rid of the little devil head and replaced it with a V. For the base plate, I actually did another slightly even more modified version of the logo that just says Jersey Devil. You can see right there, and also again after I put it on the base plate. If you want a copy of this logo in SVG format, I'll have a link to it down below. I'll also have a version of the logo that's the same as on the sign. I don't have a copy of the version with the devil head. Now to add this logo, I've cut it out on my Cricut machine out of a metallic vinyl here. And so to apply it, I'm going to first use this transfer tape to peel it away from the backing. And then we can position this where we want it on the base plate. And then peel away the transfer tape. And in the end, it's going to look like that. Like I said, it's a much simplified version of the logo, but with this base plate, that's about all I could do. So the next step is going to be to cut out each of the pieces of track here. So to do that, I'm going to use my pair of wire cutters here. These are just something I picked up on Amazon. They're pretty cheap. I have a link to them down in the description if you're interested in the same ones, or really any pair of wire cutters should work. You can also use nail clippers. I find that they're a little bit more difficult than a good pair of wire cutters, so if you're going to be doing a lot of models, it's probably worth buying a pair of wire cutters. If it's just going to be your only model, a pair of nail clippers will probably get the job done. Now as you cut out each of these pieces, you'll just want to go around and cut out each of the little tabs that are hanging on here as you go around. You'll also want to make sure that you don't bend the pieces. They're very thin, they're very fragile. Being a steel coaster, it's a lot thinner structure than something like the El Toro Nano Coaster where you have the wooden coaster structure that makes it a lot more rigid. So this track can easily bend and deform, and once you do that, it's a lot, just makes the model look a lot sloppier when you're assembling it. So I'm going to go through really quick though and cut out all these pieces, and we'll proceed to that point. So now that we have all the track pieces cut out, it's time to begin assembly. One thing you want to remember when you're cutting out the track pieces, you want to be careful. There are a lot of sharp edges. About halfway through, I noticed there was some blood all over the metal, and it was because I'd cut my knuckle here. I'm just scraping against one of the edges, and it kind of bled out on there, and I had to clean up the pieces and stuff. Nothing too serious, but something to keep in mind. Now for assembly, I want to grab our base plate here and first grab this piece here. You can see it's a little bit bent from removing it. I did it as carefully as possible, and we'll straighten some of that out as we put it into the model. But this is going to be the first piece that we do. This is going to have a few little final airtime hills here into the final brake run, and then it's going to turn around into the station. One of the nice things, if you look at the bottom of this, every tab is a different size, so it's really difficult to put these in the wrong place. Typically, that they really only fit in one place on the track. Sometimes the tab might fit in multiple places, but overall the whole piece won't. This piece is going to attach on the second track in here, first with this big tab here, then one that's a little bit smaller, second, and then one that's about the same size as the second, one third, and then we're going to kind of come into the turnaround here. So you can kind of see the turn down here on the track, hopefully. For this, you can use something rounded to help you shape it, or you can just use the track. I'm going to use a C-cell battery to kind of get it started on the curve. However, the curve is going to have to be much smaller than this. This is just going to kind of give us a little bit of rounding that's uniform to help us get going with this. But once we have it like that, now we can drop this final tab into place. Now we want to make sure we get each of these tabs pushed all the way in. And then once we do that, we can come underneath here, and you'll notice these tabs sticking out at the bottom. We'll just bend each of those over 90 degrees to hold the track into place. When you do this, if the track runs next to another piece of track, you'll want to make sure that you don't bend it and cover up another slit. You know, sometimes that there's pieces of track that run really close to each other, and if you cover up a slot with a tab, then you'll have to go back and bend it back the other way to be able to put another slot in later. And then once we have the piece there, we can kind of go through and do a little bit of straightening, make sure that the piece is really following the track engraving on the base plate. But there we have our first piece of track installed. Now the second piece is going to be this piece here, and it's actually going to run on the very back of the coaster, but also cross over a little bit. So right inside of the coaster here, there's a slit that we can drop that tab down, and it's a very thin tab at the start. And then this is going to go over the piece of track to where there's two large slots in the back, one large tab underneath each of the airtime hills here. So we can drop those down into place there. And like I said, it has the whole track layout engraved in the base plate. So with each piece, you just kind of follow the track layout and continue dropping slots down into the track right where they belong. If there's not a slot where you think there should be, then you may have the piece backwards, or you may have the wrong piece. Those are both signs that something's not quite right. We're going to drop each of these down into place here, and then we'll bend over the tabs on the bottom just the same as we did on the first track piece. And there we have track piece number 2 installed. Now track piece number 3 is going to be our shortest piece, and it's actually going to continue off of the first piece that we did. So right at the first downhill there into the bunny hop there, you'll notice that this left end of this piece also matches that shape. And there's just a single thin tab on that piece. So we can come over here, we can drop that one into place, and also the second one at the same time to kind of help us. And then at the end here, we're going to have to turn this. This is going to go into a turnaround, and so we're going to have to kind of round it around and line up each of the tabs. So on this particular piece, every single tab is very small, very thin. It's a pretty easy piece to put in place. So we'll drop all those in, and then we'll bend over the tabs underneath. And then we'll look at the overhead here and do a little bit of track shaping. We want to get this turnaround as close to uniform as possible. Like I said, I usually like to use batteries for turnarounds and stuff like that, but this is kind of an odd size, and I don't know that I really have anything round in here that's the right size for that battery. Also, where the two track pieces meet together, I want to make sure that they're uniform there. Just continue to look at this a little bit, make sure it all looks right. And so there we have 3 of the 5 track pieces installed. Now the 4th track piece is going to continue right where we left off with this flat section here, so the mid-course. So we can first drop this large tab in right next to the piece we just left off with. And then continue around with the rest of the tabs as well, and get them to line up. And then towards the end of this piece, it's going to go into a turnaround as well. So we're going to have to kind of round it here. And then after these first 3 tabs, we're going to go into a turnaround here. So we're going to have to kind of round this around and drop a narrow tab in on the turn. And then we're actually going to hop
all the way around, kind of a sharpish turn here, and go right over the initial turnaround from the first piece we did and drop that tab into place as well. Now this piece, as I get it installed, it actually looks kind of rough, kind of bent out of shape, and so after I bend over each of the tabs on here, I'm actually going to do a little bit more shaping here with just my fingers. So let's get these tabs bent over here. And one thing that was kind of disappointing with this piece here is between this long tab and this little short tab that go in, it doesn't seem like it was precisely measured. And so it created a kink in the track as I put it in. But I'm going to try to bend that out as straight as possible. I'm also going to take a AA battery here in the turnaround and kind of just use this as a guide to help shape this turnaround just a little bit more round. We can come right here before the turn, make sure we get that kink out. Just go through here. You can use some pliers, you can use tweezers or something to help you to straighten it out a little bit. So I can bring my pliers in here where I have a little kink down here. You want to be careful you don't scratch the paint. These pieces are painted, so you want to be careful you don't ruin the paint. But there we have the first 4 track pieces done with only 1 remaining. So the final track piece is going to be the lift hill into this first turnaround. And the lift hill actually has this extra support. You'll notice this triangular support here. So this one's actually going to go out over the entire coaster. So over these 3 hills, and there's a little tab in the back for it. So we're actually going to bend this support backwards. For this, I'm going to use my pliers and make sure we can kind of get this a little bit straight. Just bend it straight back. And I'm going to bend it a little bit further than it used to be, and we'll get that fixed here momentarily. So first we'll drop this first tab into place. It's a long tab right, continuing off the first piece that we installed. And then we'll do the second tab as well. It's a long tab right as the first drop goes down. And then we'll just continue along and get each of the rest of these tabs into place. Now before I get both of these long ones pressed completely in, I want to take this back support here now and bend that tab down and kind of push it over into place as well. So we'll drop that one in over there, and then hopefully we can get these other 2 long ones to drop all the way down into place on the base plate where they go. And then we'll bend over the tabs underneath 90 degrees once again. And then we'll just take another look at this track and make sure everything looks like it's straight, just like it should be. So the lift hill here, it's actually a very tight fit with this extra support. It actually created a little bit of bending here. I'm gonna use my pliers and see if we can't flatten this out just very carefully. Once again, we don't want to scratch the paint on there, but we do want this to look, uniform and straight the whole way through. So that is going to complete the track layout for Jersey Devil. This leaves us with 2 pieces. The first piece here is the station. If you've ever done a Nanocoaster, all of the stations are the same. There's these little house structures that you can just fold into place like that. And then over the station, there's 2 tabs, 1 on each, or 2 slots, 1 on each side. We'll drop the 2 tabs in and then bend the tabs over underneath to hold that in place. And then the last piece is the little sign. There's 1 extra slot up here in the front that we can drop the sign in, fold the tab over underneath, and bend the sign back just a little bit. That's the completed kit of Jersey Devil Coaster from Six Flags Great Adventure in New Jersey. Of course, with my added logo there to the base plate. Overall, pretty cool looking model. I don't know that they got the colors quite right. It seems whenever they try to do an orange coaster, it turns out a little bit more red. Also, the black supports almost look a little bit maroonish or brown maybe. They kind of have a warm hue to them instead of being like the dark gray like they are, almost black. And if you look at the picture on the back of the kit, it actually looks like the coloring's right. but it's really not. In fact, the sign on the Nanocoaster on the back actually has the devil on it as well, which is something they didn't do either. So those things are a little bit off. A few places were kind of hard to put together. I don't know that they got the measurements exactly right on it, but overall a cool looking model. Pretty happy with the way it turned out. It'll definitely look good on the shelf behind me. So this is available from Six Flags Great Adventure for $34.99 or available on merch.sixflags.com for $37.99. If you buy it in the park, it is eligible for a discount. I was able to use my Diamond membership to get, I think, 35% off the kit, which makes it a little bit more reasonable. Now, if you've seen my other videos, you know one extra thing I like to do is to add an adhesive felt to the bottom of the Nanocoaster. So this is adhesive felt I purchased from Amazon. You may recognize this from my last video, as I've already cut El Toro out of the same exact piece of felt, so you can usually get 2, sometimes 3 Nanocoasters out of each piece. So to add the felt here though, I'm going to put the Nanocoaster up here towards one of the edges and actually one of the corners, and we're going to get 2 edges here pretty close. And then we can come in here with a marker or pen and just kind of trace around on the felt. So the bottom of the Nanocoasters actually have a pretty rough bottom with all the tabs, and so if you try to slide it around, it'll scratch up a surface, and so that's why I like to add this felt. So we've traced out the felt there that we need to cut out, and now I'll grab my scissors and we'll cut about 1/8 of an inch inside of the line all the way around. You want the felt to be slightly smaller than the Nanocoaster. If it hangs off the edge, you can trim it up a little bit afterwards, but it's a lot easier if you just make it slightly smaller beforehand. So I just like to cut it about 1/8 of an inch inside. It still covers all of the tabs and makes the bottom of the Nanocoaster a lot smoother. So I'm going to quickly cut this out and then we'll get to putting it on. So there we have our cutout piece of felt. To apply this, I'll first peel off part of the paper backing here and then tear it. And then we can take one end of the Nanocoaster. This one's actually a perfect rectangle here. So we can take one end of the Nanocoaster and just kind of cover up the entire felt piece there and press down this end that we've removed the backing on. Now we just remove the rest of the paper backing, and then we use our table to help us line this up and slide it right on. And like I said, that creates a really nice felt bottom there. It's smooth. We can slide this around on the table now. It's not going to scratch anything up. It just adds just another level of quality to the Nanocoaster. But ultimately, like I said, that's the completed model there. Done with it now. Nice model, a little bit difficult to build in certain areas. A few things may not be exactly precise, and the colors are definitely off. I don't know why they went with more of a reddish and brown rather than the orange and dark gray, almost black of the actual coaster. But in the end, it turned out really nice. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to see more videos like this, make sure you hit the subscribe button. If you like this video, make sure you hit the thumbs up button. If you didn't like it, that's fine as well. But thanks and have a great day.